Destiny currently only has one darkness subclass, Stasis. This has led fans to wonder what the next darkness subclass will be. Now, obviously it's damn near confirmed at this point that it will be corruption or poison based, but what about the third and final darkness subclass? Let's talk about what it could possibly be.
Titties.
So as I said in the intro, Destiny currently has one darkness subclass in Stasis. Of course, Stasis is essentially the ice damage type. Stasis was the first new element to be added in Destiny, well, ever. And it was also the first time we could directly use the darkness powers for ourselves. Now, the uninitiated may be wondering, well, why are you so sure we're gonna get another darkness subclass at all? And it's a fair question, but here's why. If you go into the inventory screen and go to select your subclass, you have the choice to switch over to the darkness subclasses. Plural. If we were only gonna have Stasis, they probably wouldn't have let us on like this. Secondly, following the announcement of the Witch Queen, Joe Blackburn did an interview where he outright confirms a new damage type is in development that we wouldn't see until after the Witch Queen. Now, this is almost certainly going to be a corruption subclass or a poison subclass. We've now had a few weapons and armor pieces that are themed around corruption be introduced and actually have synergy with each other. Most notably the necrotic grip gauntlets for the warlock having synergy with thorn and osteo striga. Many players believed that with the introduction of Savathun and the Witch Queen that we would be granted these powers by her, similar to how Eramis was the first one we observed using stasis powers back in Beyond Light. Of course, this didn't happen. Yet. If you want my opinion, I believe Savathun was kept alive for a reason. I feel like she will end up being resurrected as an ally in our fight against the Black Fleet. If she does end up coming back to life, it's my guess that she will teach us how to use hive magic, just as she was granted the light. Once opposite forces now fighting together over a common evil, you get the point. Come to think of it, how cool would it be if she was actually the corruption vendor? Though it'd be kinda strange if we were paying her, like in Glimmer. I'm not sure she has any real use for that. But that's my guess. Going on record now, I think next season, Arc will get reworked since it's weaker than Solar, then Solar the season after that, then they go, quote, heads down for a season, only to introduce hive subclasses in Lightfall. But you're not here to talk about corruption, you're here to talk about the third darkness subclass, the one that not many people have really talked about since corruption is so damn obvious. Imagine how stupid we would all feel if, like, it's not corruption at all. Now, let me just say right off the bat that we do not know for sure if there will be a third darkness subclass, although I would argue that it's highly likely this is community-based speculation. Alright, so let's take a step back and look at all 5 subclass and damage types, assuming the next one is indeed corruption, to try and understand what the final one might be. Alright, from the top we have arc or electricity, solar or fire, void or void, stasis or ice, and corruption or poison if you're asking me. Now there's this idea that the darkness subclasses are the antithesis of the light subclasses or the opposite of them. The reason being that stasis is essentially the opposite of solar. I'm not totally convinced yet that this is intentional, however I did manage to find something quite interesting. A Reddit user by the name of LetUsDifferent5104 used color theory to try and guess the general colors of the 2 remaining darkness types. I'm paraphrasing here, but they found that the stasis indigo color is almost an exact chromatic inverse of solar's orangey color. Using this logic, we may concur that there will be a green and red subclass because void's purple inverses to green and arc's blue inverses to a reddish orange. Look, this may be a total coincidence, but even if it is, I still feel like this is the direction we're going. In my opinion, the final subclass color will indeed be red, a color that is strangely absent from any rarities or abilities. As for what the abilities may actually be based on, I have a few ideas as well. By the way, sorry this is taking so long to explain, I just think this whole thing is really interesting. As for what the theme of this red subclass may be, here are my ideas. The first, and I think least likely idea, is a blood subclass. I think this is the least likely just because it doesn't really have any basis in the game right now, and blood isn't really a damage type, but it's red and it's edgy, so I felt the need to mention it. Also, I guess guess ice or stasis didn't really have any basis in the game, so I guess it's not totally impossible, but I just don't really see Bungie doing this. The next option is whatever sort of energy fueled the nightmares on the moon. Again, this is really just cause it gave off an orangey red hue and was directly linked to the darkness. This leads us to option 2.5, energy derived straight from the pyramids. If you ever look at the pyramids, you'll see a strange orangey red energy emanating from it. Seems like a pretty safe bet if you ask me. It also kind of keeps in line with the theme of the darkness subclasses straying further and further away from the light, starting with ice and then ending at pure energy from the darkness. I actually just thought of this, but my last and not as safe bet is a SIVA subclass. Now, of course, this had to be mentioned because it's red, but darkness abilities so far have been more kinetic in nature, and SIVA is definitely more of a kinetic force rather than an elemental one. Also, Outbreak Perfected, which is one of the only SIVA weapons we have right now, is in the kinetic slot, so if they wanted to just convert it over to the SIVA damage type, it'd be easy to do. Though I think this would be kind of weird since SIVA, from what I understand, doesn't really have super strong ties to the darkness. Then again, neither did ice, so I guess anything is possible. And I mean, if we really are in keeping with this theme of alliances, kind of like how we're allied with the Fallen and the Cabal, and I think soon Savathun, it'd be pretty cool if we got SIVA powers from an alliance with the SIVA. Players have been wanting a SIVA-based season for a while now, and honestly, with this theme of them bringing back old raids, this would give them a really good excuse to bring back Wrath of the Machine. I gotta say, I do like this idea of the dark abilities being inverses of the light ones, even if they aren't direct opposites. One issue I could see with a nightmare or pyramid energy type is that it doesn't seem very applicable to weapons. Like, I could see some random legendary weapons that have the corruption damage type, but it would seem weird to me if nightmare was a damage type. I guess this doesn't always have to be the case, but so far one of the main differences between dark and light was the idea of kinetic powers versus cosmic gifts. Although maybe they could tie these nightmare weapons into a new rarity of sorts. Video about that coming soon. Anyway, I know this was a lot, so if you made it to the end, I truly appreciate that. Let me know what your bets are for the future darkness subclasses. Thanks so much for hanging out, and goodbye.